Hello and welcome to Grognard Solo Gaming. I am the Grognard and today we are continuing with Old School Essentials. And before we get started, there are a few short things that I am going to say. And the first one is that I'm going to remove this thing where likes on the previous video turns into a bonus to gold. And the simple reason for that is that I am constantly forgetting to use that rule. And then I end up just having to fix it after the fact. And I don't feel like it's adding very much at this point. But please, of course, if you like the video, then press like for the video. And then also I have decided to remove this one-to-one thing with the weather. And the reason for that is that Swedish weather just isn't very interesting. And what ends up happening is essentially that I'm telling you the weather in Stockholm, and then I'm telling you that it's not going to affect the game, because it's not going to affect the game, and it just seems kind of pointless. So what I'm going to do instead is, because I've been thinking about these islands, and why they are as strange as they are, and I'm thinking that probably they were created in a battle between some gods or powerful wizards or something like that, and that is why everything is a bit wild and a bit crazy. And because of that, I'm thinking that what I'll do is that I'm going to come up with some sort of a role where each individual island can have its own specific weather. And of course that doesn't really make sense, but I feel like if there is an island that has a lot of desert, then that island is going to be very warm. And then if there is an island with tundra or Arctic something, I don't know if that is going to be the case because I haven't looked at the cards, but then of course that's going to be cold, and because of magic that is going to work out, and I feel like that's going to be much more interesting, and then it's going to also affect the party and the gameplay. So that was that with the weather. And then last session, the party found a very powerful medallion of protection +2, and I never said who was going to get that medallion. And my first thought was that it was going to be Daviez, but unfortunately, because his AC would go down to -1, and that would be really good. But he is a barbarian and he refuses to use magical items, so instead I'm going to give it to Lekkis III, because then his AC goes down to 1. And that is also pretty good, and he has a rather high amount of hit points as well. And that was it. And yes, the final thing that I'm going to say is that I did change Tharos' thief skills, and I changed them for the optional rules in the carcass crawler. And it is this one, issue 1. And they are called flexible D6 thief skills. And what it means is that instead of rolling a D100 and then a D6 for one of the skills, well, so you roll a D6 for all of them, and he has a base value of 1 in each skill, and then every time he levels up, he gains 2, and then he had a certain amount at level 1 also to assign. And so what I have done is that I have maxed out his skill in picking locks and his skill in detecting traps. So he's really good at those two things, and then he has a skill of 1 in all the other skills. So that was everything, I think. So they are in this hex on their ship, the Sea Drake. And last time they ventured into this mysterious crystal pyramid, and they had some encounters and they found some things. So I am going to have them go back into the crystal pyramid this session. Well, let's look at that. All right, so I'm going to put the overlay map on the screen for you so that you can see the dungeon. And I am going to be using the same way of generating this dungeon that I used last time. And also what I'm going to do is that when I generate the first room or corridor, then I'm going to show you all the rolls. I'm going to tell you how I'm doing it, just in case this is the first video someone is watching and you're curious. But then what I'm going to do is, because I realized that watching me randomize which square the door is placed, that's perhaps not super entertaining. So what I'll do is that I'll make all the rolls, and then I will put the new generated room or corridor on the map, and then I will simply tell you what it looks like, because some people are probably listening and not watching the video. And that way it's also going to save some time, and it's going to allow the party to get further into the dungeon. And right, because some time has passed, and that means that in order, and this is just something that I like to do, and that is to make some sort of a roll for the NPCs that are on this island, and just see if anything interesting happened to them or with them when they did something. So currently we have the zombies in Heart Tower, we have the crystal slime, oh wait, here is the map. So we have Heart Tower that has zombies, we have the crystal slime that is here, and then the Dragon Pond, there isn't much going on, but then we have Radagast the Brown, the dwarf that is in charge of the dwarves that are on the island mining these mysterious crystals, and then we have the crystal pyramid. So what I'm going to do, it hasn't been a lot of time, so I am going to roll, well, I'm going to roll a d6 for each location, and then if I roll a 6, then something has happened to that place or those people. So let's see. Okay, so I am going to use these homemade tokens that, I usually use for the enemies, and I'm going to roll for the locations, and if I don't roll a 6, then I'm putting it face down, and if I do roll a 6, I'm putting it face up, and then depending if there are any face ups, then I'm going to go through those and, well, somehow generate something that has happened. So let's start with the crystal pyramid, and on a 6. A 6, oh my, well, that means something has happened there. The dragon pond, a 1, so nothing happened there. And then we have the dwarves. They were here last time, so even though they don't have a name tag or anything on the map, I'm still going to roll for the dwarves, and a 1, so no. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I could have said that a 1 was something negative and a 6 was... never mind. Then the crystal slime, a 3, so that's a no. And finally, heart tower, and that's a 2, so no. So something has happened with the crystal pyramid, and that is the only thing. So let's use the good old coin and begin by asking, is it something that's good for the player characters? And, well, no would mean it's bad. No, it's not good for the players, so it's something that's bad for the players. And here is a small tip for anyone who is new to solo role-playing, and that is this thing that I'm doing with the coin, where I ask, right, what I'm doing is I'm defining both the yes and the no, because if you just ask, is it X, and then you get a no, and then you ask, is it Y, and you get a no, and then is it Z, and you get a no, then you can just keep going if you're very unlucky. And also what that can end up doing is that the first things you're asking, those are your best ideas, and then you just get a no, and a no, and a no, and a no, and then you don't really know what to do, and it can just get sort of frustrating. So this is an easy way to get around that. So what I'm doing now is that I'm asking the coin, am I going to use the Hex Dek card for the problem, and a no means that I will use the deck of old school wilderness encounters instead. That is also by Philip Reed, so it is appropriate for this campaign. So let's see, should I use the Hex Dek? No, I should not, so then I'm using this one. All right, so I'm going to show you a card, and I'm not going to be using that card, but the way this deck works is that you have 3 snippets of text, and then you draw 3 cards, and then you read this part from the first one, this part from the second one, and this part from the last card, and then you add them together, and that's the event. And that's what I'm going to do, hopefully, if possible. But because it has to relate to the crystal pyramid, and it has to be something that's bad for the players, so that is something that I will have to modify whatever the cards say in order to make those things true. Okay, so I have put dice under the cards because when they are at an angle, then I am pretty sure that I'm not going to get any glare, and because I'm using print and play laminated cards. Okay, so let's see here. On your journey, you come across a shrine resting high on a rocky hill. Followers faithful to a god of stars congregate here on the night of the new moon to pray to their deity. There you meet a young mage, probably no more than 20 winters of age, and their familiar, a frog. The mage is a mute, and the frog speaks for them. And then finally, they tell you that there's a village not far away that is in desperate need of heroes. They're offering 100 gold to anyone who kills the owl bear that has been eating their cattle. Okay, so the way that I'm going to use this is the first part. I am not going to add anything, but I'm going to simply say that the crystal pyramid is connected to the stars. So it's sort of like a magical observatory. And perhaps the wizard might have worshipped some sort of a deity connected to the stars. So that's going to be the first part. Then the middle part, I am going to say that the reason the young mage is a mute is that he has been turned to crystal, and his frog familiar was also turned to crystal initially, but because, well, and this is of course a Dungeons & Dragons type of thing, but then when the crystallized familiar died, he can just resummon it, and then it's no longer crystal, so that is why it is a living, normal frog familiar, and it's able to speak. And then the final thing is that the village, and I'm going to say there's not quite a village, but I want to make the dwarves more of a presence on this island. So I'm going to say that it is a dwarf camp that they are working to turn into a village. And then how is this a problem for the players? Well, it's a problem for the players because this owl bear has made its way into the crystal pyramid looking for some place to create its lair. And so as they move through the rooms, there is going to be an ever-increasing risk of running into this owlbear. And then there is also, because it was decided, well, it was decided by me, that something went wrong both in Heart Tower and in the Crystal Pyramid, because the dwarves sabotaged whatever magical experiments the wizards were doing in those places. And so I am thinking that there is a risk that the owlbear has been turned into crystal also. So, but I will randomize that once the party runs into the owlbear, and well, we're gonna have to see when that happens. So then I am wondering, is there a way to reverse this crystallization magic thing that has happened to the young mage? And I'm going to simply ask the coin, because if there is, then it's likely he's going to have his familiar ask the party if he can join them and go inside. So let's see. Might there be a cure inside the pyramid? Yes. Okay. So, and then, well, I'm going to also ask, because maybe the mage, wizard, whatever he was, maybe he is not brave enough to go inside. Maybe he's feeling brittle in his new state. So let's see. Does he want to join the party? No. Okay, so he is feeling brittle, and he does not want to risk going into the pyramid. However, then he is sort of going to give the party a quest to find an item that is going to potentially be able to turn him normal. And what is that going to be? Well, let's see. Is it a potion? And if the answer is no, then it's some sort of a contraption. Yes, it is a potion. Okay. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do is, for every room that the players enter, every new room that is, I'm going to roll a d6, and for every room there is a cumulative chance that the potion is there. So first room it's on a 1, second room it's on a 2, a 1 or a 2, and so on. And then I'm going to do sort of the same thing with the owlbear, except the owlbear, the risk of the owlbear appearing also increases with every corridor. So yeah, that's how that's going to work. So, to create this dungeon, I am using the referee's tome, and it is this part, Designing a Dungeon, that starts on page 12. And here are just some quick and easy tables that you can use to create a dungeon. And the dungeon starts with a room, and every room leads to a corridor, every corridor leads to a room, and corridors are 1d8 squares long, and rooms are 1d8 squares by 1d8 squares in size. And if I roll a 1, then I'm going to re-roll, because otherwise it turns into a corridor. And that is how I generate the rooms and corridors. And each corridor and each room is going to contain 1d4 minus 1 doors. And then, depending on their size, I just randomize where they are located. And here is the dungeon delving sheet, and it's going to keep track of everything. Right, last time I forgot about the torches. This time I am going to say that Tharos and also, well, let's say Curtis. Tharos and Curtis, they each carry a torch. So I'm going to, well, give them these little things that apparently stick to my fingers. And, well, there. Hopefully that is going to help me remember who is carrying a torch. Right, so then with each 10 minutes, that is a turn, you mark one of these, and then I talked about this last time, so I'm not going to go into the details again. And these d6s, they are, as always, the party's rations, and it would take them 1 day to get to the crystal pyramid, so I'm removing 1. All right, so let us get started. The party, they are going to enter the first room. Of course, they have already been there, but it has been a few weeks. So, because quite a bit of time has passed, I am going to roll new contents for this room, and because I feel like probably, well, special and trap might not make sense, but I'm going to roll and see, and special I might have to re-roll that, we'll see. A 4, that would be a monster. Oh, and also a 3 in 6 chance of treasure. Interesting. So let's see. Let's see first if there is treasure. There is not treasure. I in my mind, rolling high on a d6 is supposed to be good. So, but 3 in 6 means that it's on a 1 to 3. Okay, so there is monster. Then also I need to make these rolls, and the first one is because if I roll that the owlbear is here, then there is a monster plus the owlbear, and also the potion might be here, but that would mean that one of the monsters, for some reason, would have moved the potion. So let's see. Owlbear on 1. No owlbear. Potion on 1. No potion. Okay, so there is no treasure, no potion, no owlbear, but a monster. So then I am going, and this would be, again, the referee's tome, and encounter tables, and then I go to dungeons. And then, because then there is level 1, level 2, and so on. So then I'm going to use this die that I talked about last time, that apparently it's called a fudge die, and it's for the Fate RPG, I'm pretty sure. I actually own it, but I have never played it. So, well, anyway, so the way that I'm going to use this is if I roll a plus, then the monster is a higher level. If I roll a blank, then it is player level appropriate, so to speak. And if I roll a minus, then it is an easier monster somehow. So let's see, the party, they are currently level 2. Some of them are level 3, but only 2 of them. So I'm going to count them as being level 2. And then, well, let's see if, well, I'm not going to go too crazy. So it's, if I roll the minus, it's going to be level 1. If I roll the plus, it's going to be level 3. So let's see. A level 3. So, and then this would be a D4 and a D10. Okay, on the level 3 chart, D4, D10, 1 plus 6. 1, 6... Carcass crawler. Well, that's appropriate. Let's see. How many carcass crawlers? 1. Carcass crawler, a 9 foot long, 3 feet high, many-legged, segmented worms with a ring of 2 foot long tentacles around their mouths. Okay, AC 7, 3 plus 1 hit die, attacks 8. Tentacle attacks with paralysis. What? Well, that's pretty crazy, and I guess we're very happy that there was only one of these. And let's see, saving throws, blah blah, morale 9, alignment neutral, so-and-so XP, blah blah blah. Paralysis. A hit by a tentacle causes paralysis for 2d4 turns. That is 2d4 times 10 minutes. Save versus paralysis. Paralyzed victims will be devoured if the crawler is left in peace. Cling. Can walk on walls and ceilings. Okay, that is nasty. So then I am bringing out this combat sequence sheet, and it's going to come in extra handy because some of you may know I have started also playing Curse of Strahd using 5th edition on this channel, so the risk of me mixing things up and getting rules wrong, well, that risk has gone up. So, but using this, hopefully it's going to be okay. Okay, so starting in the reference booklet with the sequence for encounters, let's see, surprise. Well, actually, one thing that I have noticed both with myself and when I watch other people play this game solo, because this sequence begins with the word surprise, it makes it so that, and me included, people tend to more or less always check for surprise. And I am pretty sure that when I read the rules, it doesn't say that you always check surprise. You only check surprise if the circumstances are such that it would make sense. And with a party of 9 people and 2 pets, they would rarely surprise anyone. So I probably shouldn't be checking for surprise as much as I have been doing, but I feel like, well, until it causes a TPK, because I was going to say it's not really a problem, but it can actually be quite a big problem. But I do feel that in the dungeon, they're opening the doors. You never know, maybe this creature was eating and wasn't paying attention. So I'm going to check for surprise, and I think I'm going to continue to use surprise, perhaps more than intended, because it just makes it easier, because I won't have to stop and think about it. I'll just do what it says, and that way the game will move on. So let's see, surprise. Carcass crawler is red, party is blue on 1 or 2, surprise. And, oh no, yeah, famous last words. Surprise doesn't cause a problem. And then, of course, the party is surprised, and they are going to suffer 8 tentacle attacks. So that's going to be not so great. Oh, I didn't realize, actually, the tentacles don't do any damage. So the creature has to either paralyze everyone or... Well, okay, that makes it, well, it can still cause quite a big amount of trouble because people can be paralyzed for a long time. So, well, let's see. Okay, one thing that I realized was that it's perhaps because this is the first room, and this monster is sort of new since last time, so it's not entirely necessary that this is a crystal monster. So I am going to ask the coin, is this a crystal carcass crawler? Yes, it is. Okay. So then it loses its constitution bonus, and it has 17 hit points. And I'm going to say that because the tentacles with the paralysis, they're not very long, so I'm going to say that it is able to reach 1 plus a D3 players during the surprise round. So it's just going to be able to reach 2. So I am going to randomize 2 targets, and the pets are included, but if I roll a 12, then I'm going to have to re-roll. So Curtis is 1 and Tharos is 11. 12, re-roll, 7 and 8. That would be a Flark and Calliope. 4 tentacles against Flark, hitting on a 12 plus, and that would be 2 hits. 2 saves against paralysis, 14 or higher, no, 8-2. All right, so Flark has been paralyzed for 2d4 turns, and that's a 2 and a 4, so 6 turns, that's an hour. So that means Flark is paralyzed until here. I'm putting an F. Well, that was not really readable, but I'm marking that so that I know, and then I am flipping his marker token thing so that he is out of the game for an hour. Then Calliope, 4 tentacles hitting on 10 or higher. Nat 1, well, oh, that was kind of lucky. She only gets hit once. Let's see. And she also needs to roll a 14 or higher. And that is a 14. Lucky, lucky Calliope. All right, so that was the surprise round. Now it is time for initiative. And the carcass crawler is red. And on a tie, the party wins. And the party wins. And starting with Curtis, it might have passed you by, but he is actually a mage, and he might have passed you by because he has yet to cast a single spell. And the reason is that the way that mages work is that instead of having spells with spell slots, the way that other arcane casters do, they have more like skills that are magical that they then roll a percentage die to see if they succeed or not. However, he also has a healing ability, and his healing ability can either heal his level hit points, but it can also allow someone to make a new saving throw. So what Curtis is going to do is that he's going to move over to Flark, and he's going to use his healing, and he's going to allow him a second saving throw against the paralysis. So 14 or higher. Oh, that's no, it was almost a 17. Let's see, 16. Wow. Yes, 16. So that means that Curtis manages to get a Flark back into the fight. And I'm gonna remove his die so that I know that he has taken an action. All right, and of course I put this sheet here and then I forgot about it. But the only thing that I missed was declare spells and declare melee movement. And right, let's see, because Flark actually is close to the thing, and so is Calliope. So then the question is, would they be, well, if they disengage and move away, well, I'm gonna have to look at those rules because they don't want to, well, Flark is probably going to stay, but Calliope might want to back away, and then, so I'm going to look at what it says about free attacks when you move away from combat. So the only rules that I am finding are these here, fighting withdrawal and retreat, and so I mean, neither one seems to result in an opportunity attack or a free hack or something like that. So then my conclusion is that Calliope could move back if she wanted, and she would not be automatically attacked for that. There would be no bonus attacks because of that. So then that would have been melee movement that I would have needed to declare, and then spells. Well, if we count Curtis healing, then that was a spell. So those were spells that needed to be declared, and then the initiative, and that was we already rolled that, and the party won. So then let's see. And there would be no morale check because this carcass crawler is made of crystal, so it is immune to morale anyway. And then movement, Calliope moves away, and Flark stands his ground and tanks this thing. And then it is, oh right, missiles, spells, yeah, and this is of course what I was saying. And the thing is, I have played way more Dungeons and Dragons and other things than OSE, so my brain defaults to the D&D style of combat. So okay, so missiles would have been before the spell. So that means in fact that Curtis did not cast his spell yet, and then we are going to go down the line, and let's see. Well, Grimindor is going to throw a dagger. A 12 is going to hit for a d4, and that will be a 4. Unfortunately, because when you throw a dagger, it's the point first, and because the rules that I made for crystal creatures is that then you roll the damage with disadvantage, so I'm going to have to roll again and take the low, and of course a 1. So 1 point of damage. Grek'on and Pantera, they are going to move into a melee range, and they are going to attack. And, well, actually the bite, well, I guess then, just to achieve maximum efficiency, Pantera is going to slash with his claws, and Grek'on has a sword, so he is not going to suffer this disadvantage on the damage. So let's see. A nat 1 for Pantera is of course going to miss, but a 19 for Grek'on is going to hit. D8 plus 1, 8 points of damage, not bad. And, of course, I did it again. I looked at Grek'on. Grek'on is going to go into melee, but it's not the melee phase, so he shouldn't have. I'm going to allow this combat to be the mess that it is. I'm not going to... Right, but now trying to make my brain remember that we are looking for people attacking with missiles, and well, maybe I have to stop playing Curse of Strahd because this is a bit of a mess. But let's see then. Daviez he's going to run in with his sword later on, but Artaigon, he's going to throw a dagger, and an 8 is unfortunately going to miss. And then Flark is going to strike with his mace once we get to the melee, and then Calliope, who moved back, she's going to fire her sling, and a 7 is unfortunately going to miss. Then Lekkis and Urso, they are going to move in once we get to the melee phase, and then we have Tharos, and he has a short bow, I'm pretty sure, and an 11. No, unfortunately he needed a 13 or higher. And now we are going into the spells. And I'm not going to re-roll things, so I'm going to say that now, well, Curtis is going to have to move up to Flark in order to use his healing, and then Flark has been cured of the paralysis. And now we get to the melee, and that means, let's see, Grek'on has attacked, Pantera has attacked, and then it is Davies' turn. And he is going to run in with his sword, and he is going to take a swing. A 14 hits, 1d8 plus 1, 7, not bad. And that means it has taken 16 out of 17 hit points, so it is really not doing well. But let's see then if Flark is able to finish it off with his mace. With an 18, yes, he is. So Flark gets his revenge, and the crystal carcass crawler has been destroyed. All right, that went fairly well for the party, actually, even though they got nothing except a few experience points, and a carcass crawler is worth 75 experience points. So now the party, they are going to go look at the door to the east. But, right, so I can remove this because Flark was cured from the paralysis, and even if a combat is shorter than 10 minutes, one turn, it is necessary for the party to recover from the fight for a while, so combat still takes one turn. So then Tharos is going to go look at the door using his newfound skills, and he's going to look for a trap. Technically, in the book, it says that his skill is to find traps, treasure traps, and this wouldn't be treasure, but I'm just gonna ignore that. I don't know if that is meant to be taken literally, but right. So on anything but a 6, he succeeds, and of course I am also because I'm not a big fan of troublesome doors. I say that only on a. So let's say 1 on the red die, then it's locked or it's trapped or it's something. There is a problem, and on 1 to 5, then Tharos is able to deal with that. So let's see. And success and no problem. So Tharos is able to ascertain that there is no problem with this door. And then they enter a corridor because they are coming from a room. And how many squares long is this corridor? 4 squares. And how many doors are in here? 2 minus 1, so 1, and that is added to the 1 door that the party came through. That door is not part of this D4. So now, because there is a limit to how far the map can go in every direction, I am going to say that this door cannot lead to the south, because that's just going to be problematic for me. So on a 1 or a 2, it's to the north, and higher than that, then it's to the east. And so it's to the north. and then I'm rolling a d4 to see which square the door is located in, and there are 4, so I'm rolling a d4, and number 4. And now, going forward, I am just going to make those rolls, and then I'll tell you about the room. But let us see what is in this corridor. And I have decided to simply treat the corridors as rooms, because otherwise they end up being kind of boring. Okay, so d6, and number 3, monster again. Treasure, 1, 2, or 3, a 1, so there is treasure. And on a 1 and a 2, there is also a... I was going to say bugbear, but owlbear in this corridor. That means it's quite packed. But let's see, 1 or 2 bugbear. No, say it again, owlbear. But no owlbear. And well, I was going to say no bugbear, but who knows? Maybe that is what we're going to find. Okay, so I am going showing this one more time, and then I think I will do the same thing, and I'm just going to, because then you'll know how it works and what it is I'm rolling and what I'm doing, and so then that can also save some time from this video. So let's see which level I am going to roll on, and a minus means that it's level 1, and then what was it? It was a d4 and a d10. And let's see, so 1 and 4 on level 1, 1, 4, level 1. Berserkers, 1d4. How many berserkers? 4 berserkers. Okay, berserker, fighters who enter a raging battle. They never take prisoners. Okay, well, that's not very nice of them. AC 7, 1 plus 1, that means 1, because these are going to be crystal, so they lose their constitution bonus. And 1 weapon attack that inflicts 1d8. Thaco 18, movement so-and-so, saves, blah blah. And they are neutral, and, well, number of appearing, it says 1d6, but the table said 1d4, so there are 4 of them. So let's see. And I realize that it perhaps doesn't really make sense, my rules with the for the crystal creatures, because if they are immune to morale because they're made of crystal, then how do they enter a berserk rage if they don't have any emotions? And also, how can the crystal carcass crawler produce poison? It doesn't really make sense, perhaps, but, well, it is what it is, and I'm not going to change anything now. Well, there is really no point in the encounter distance thing, so I'm just going to roll for the surprise. The party is blue, and oh, everyone is surprised. Okay, well, that's good. So that means everyone is highly surprised to see one another, and then we go to... Oh, right. And then, of course, there should be a monster reaction roll, but I feel as if though the crystal creatures, they are sort of set as guardians of this place, so I think they are pretty much hostile all the time. So, and also I think that would have made sense with the carcass crawler. So I'm going to skip the monster reaction roll, and I'm going to go straight to combat. And fingers crossed that I can get it, well, maybe not right, entirely right, but more right this time. So let's see. No one was surprised. Okay, and this is another one of those things, right? Combat starts. I want to roll initiative, but I'm gonna not do that. Okay, declare spells and melee movement. Now, with 4 berserkers, they are level 1 creatures, so they're not super dangerous, perhaps. And because what I'm thinking is Artaigon, he has the sleep spell. However, crystal creatures cannot be put to sleep, so that is also a reason that he's not going to be casting sleep on these. Let's see, is anyone else going to... No. So I am not declaring any spells, and we have yet to reach melee distance, so there is no melee movement. And now I'm going to roll the initiative. And the party is always the blue die, and a 5 versus a 3 means that the party goes first. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is that we are going to move. All right, so missiles. Well, actually, first let me see, because like I said before, Curtis is actually a mage. Unfortunately, he does not have anything that is good against the crystal creatures. So I think actually I am going to say that he moved in, because the party has an advantage because there are more of them, and his sword does a lot more damage. So he is actually going to join Grek'on here and attack this berserker in melee when we get to the melee phase, and that is not where we are yet, so I'm not going to make that mistake. Grimolkin is going to throw a dagger, and a 7 is unfortunately going to miss. Artaigon, dagger. Perhaps, well, they haven't really had the opportunity, but they should have slings in this place because that's crushing damage. An 8 is going to miss, however. Calliope, come on. It's time to do the Calliope thing. A 6, no. It seems Calliope has lost her mojo for this session. And finally, Tharos. And, well, all right, so that was a poor start for the party. So let's see then. Curtis swinging his sword, a 6. Grek'on and Pantera, 16. Well, Grek'on is going to miss, but Pantera is going to hit. Claws, 2d4, 2 plus 1, 3 points of damage. That was too bad, because that leaves this berserker with 1 hit point remaining. Oh wait, no, Pantera was attacking this one. Okay, so then let's see if Urso can hit that one. But first, let's try Daviez against this one here. And an 8 is not well, actually. No, an 8 is a miss. So Flark then, a 7. This is one of the worst rounds of combat ever, I feel. And now then, let's see, Lekkis is over here. And a 9. No, still... all these attacks on 1 hit. Okay, and now let's see if Urso can finish this one. With an 8, no, he cannot. All right, and then it is the Crystal Berserkers. And this one is on a low roll. He is attacking Curtis, so he is attacking Grek'on. An 8 is going to miss Grek'on. On a low roll, this one attacks Pantera. It attacks Pantera. A 5 is going to miss. This one is attacking Daviez. 18 is going to hit. Finally, someone hit. 1d8 points of damage for Daviez and 2 points of damage. Then the fourth and final Crystal Berserker attacking, right, let's see, low roll Flark. And 16 would hit. So let's see, d8 points of damage for Flark 2. Okay, a new round number 2, and then let's see, declare spells. No one is going to cast a spell. So then melee movement, I think everyone who is in melee is going to stay in melee, and we're just going to have to hope for better rolls. So that means we are going to roll the initiatives, and the Berserkers go first. So I am going to roll the d4 to see who gets the attack at the same time as the d20, and on a low roll, it is the character on the left, and a high roll, then right, obviously. So let's see. First one. 8. Well, I have said before that I often feel like my dice are broken. So this is like a special D4 that I got in a pack of dice that I think they are meant for DCC, where you have these like D16 and so on, D30 and whatever they are. And the reason that I use it is because the number faces up, so that you can potentially see it on screen. But so now it has landed on the never mind. Let's see, a 12, and right, of course I'm gonna have to re-roll that. So a 12 against Grek'on, that is a miss. So then the wounded one against the pets, and a 5 is going to miss Pantera, and then the one that is only fighting Daviez, and a 19 is going to hit Daviez, and he is getting it for 8, not good. That means Daviez has taken 10 points of damage. Well, he has 15, so that is not great. This fight is turning dangerous very suddenly. Well, not very suddenly, because the first round was terrible for the party. So, I think we need to step it up somehow. Fourth and final Berserker, let's see. Attacking Lekkis with a 19, and that's going to hit. Giving Lekkis III, 8 points of that. This is really not good. I went into this thinking it was not going to be very hard because they are level 1 enemies, and the party, they are 9 plus 2 pets. So I figured, well, this is going to be quick and easy, but Lekkis only has 11 hit points, so he can be instantly killed in 1 more hit, and the same thing goes for Daviez. So, perhaps not a wise choice. Now it is the party's turn, so let's hope for some better luck, because things are not looking good. So let's see. Okay. I almost made the mistake and started with the melee attacks. Okay, move. Well, they don't really have anywhere to go. Well, I mean, Lekkis. Yes, Lekkis is going to move back, and he's going to fire his sling. So right. No, wait. Then I would have no. I'm not allowed to do that, because then he would have had to say so earlier. So, okay, it is what it is. So let's see then. Movement, there is no one is going to go into melee, and no one has declared moving out of melee. So then missiles, okay. So Grimolkin with a dagger, and this is not good. Artaigon with a dagger. This is not going well at all. Calliope, come on Calliope, find your mojo. 16 is going to hit. And let's see which one she shoots. D4, number 2. Okay, yeah, so this one is destroyed. And then Tharos with his bow. 17, that is going to hit. D3 for which one gets hit. And then, unfortunately, piercing damage that rolls with disadvantage. That's a 3 points of damage for the first one. And they only have 4 hit points, so that was unlucky. Alright, then spells, but there are no spells, so moving on to melee. Let's see if Curtis can be lucky. Swinging his sword. A 4. Grek'on, a 9. And that is not enough. So, because they are packed in such tight quarters, I'm going to say that Pantera can attack this one and Urso can attack this one. Pantera with a 2, nope. Urso, 14, that is going to hit. And he is slashing for 5 points of damage, finally. Okay, so then the question is, Daviez, is he able to reach this one? And I'm just going to ask the coin. And no. Flark with a 15, that's going to hit. And his mace has, bludgeoning or, crushing damage. So he rolls the damage with advantage, and he has a +2. So 7 points of damage, and that one-shots this Crystal Berserker. And that leaves Lekkis without a target, and then that round of combat is over. Initiatives, and I hope the party wins. They do not. So this Crystal Berserker has 3 targets. Would have attacked Pantera, but with a 9 he is going to miss. And then it's the party's turn, and everyone is going to move that wants to move, and that would be Lekkis III no longer wants to be in melee. Alright, missiles. So let's just speed things up a bit here. And, well, Calliope actually does hit. And if she rolls a 4, it already has 3 points of damage. What that means, Calliope is able to destroy the final Crystal Berserker. And of course, I placed the power dice back here because I figured, I will remember the power dice, but clearly I did not remember the power dice. So, but I'm not going to, it would have made sense, like Daviez, when he was hit for 8 points of damage, he would have used a power die or 2, because now that they are level 2, they can use 2 of them at a time if they want to. But I'm not going to go back and change that, but I am going to try harder to remember the power dice. And now there was a treasure in this room, and also the Crystal Berserkers would have had something. And again, does that make sense when they're made of crystal? Wouldn't also all their things have been turned to crystal? Never mind, because loot is fun, so I don't want to remove that. But, right, so I'm going to generate the treasure and the loot when I'm editing, and then I'll just add that in here, and so that I don't have to take time with it now, because I want to have the party press on and get further into the dungeon. But first, I am going to have a Flark cast healing on Daviez and also Lekkis. D6 plus 1 for Daviez. 7. That means he has taken 3 points of damage. And then the same for Lekkis. 5, that means he has also taken 3 points of damage. Okay, so let's look here and see. Because they entered the first room, and then they fought the carcass crawler, that was 10 minutes. And then they moved to the corridor, and they found the Crystal Berserkers. And that fight would have taken 10, so that means I need to make a Wandering Monster check. So if I roll a 1, then there is a Wandering Monster after the Berserker fight. 5, no. And then because there is treasure in this room, they're gonna have to spend 1 turn looking into that. And then after that, they are going to check the next door and the next room. And now I'm going to make all the rolls, and then I will simply tell you what it looks like, and I'm going to update the overlay. Okay, so the party, they find a room that is 6 by 4 squares, and it has one door leading onward to the north. And this room has a trap, but this room is also where they run into the owl bear. And but the potion is not in this room. However, there is a trap in this room, and there is also there is no treasure in this room. So the trap that I rolled up is a hidden monster, and they are suggesting a snake here, and that it is released when the treasure is disturbed, but there is no treasure. So then I am going to have to say that it is some sort of a crystal snake. But then the question is, and I don't know if I said anything about this previously, but we know that the owlbear came from outside, so I am going to ask the coin, is because it might have been transformed into crystal by whatever it is that is transforming things into crystal in the pyramid. So let's see, has the owlbear been turned into crystal? No, it actually has not. So then the question, because I find it high, because the owlbear is not intelligent, and it's big and it's clumsy, so I would say it's highly likely that the owlbear would trigger the trap. So I am going to say, well, I feel like it would be more than a 50-50 really, but I'm just going to ask the coin. Has the owlbear triggered the snake trap? Yes, it has, and that makes sense. There are 5 types of snakes here, so I'm going to roll a d5 and see which type it is. And a 5 that becomes a number 3, 1, 2, 3, a rock python made out of crystal. Okay, so what I am going to do now is that I'm going to do what I did when the boar folk, I think they were called, when they attacked the necrophidius. Well, so I'm going to run the combat between the NPCs, and then we'll see what is left after that, because the party, they are not going to attack while these two are fighting. So, well, I'll do that and we'll see. Alright, after 3 rounds of combat, the owlbear has slashed and bitten the crystal snake to death, and the snake only managed to land 1 attack, but when it bites, it also gets to constrict. So the owlbear went from 22 hit points down to 13, and the snake also actually had 22 hit points. So at this point, because the party, they have just opened the door to witness this fight, it's quite likely that they are going to be able to surprise the owlbear, and because of that, I think they are going to dare to attack it, because, well, it has 3 attacks, so if it focuses 3 attacks on one person, that person can very likely die. So let's see. I am going to say that the party, they cannot be surprised by the owlbear, and the owlbear is surprised on a 1 to a 3 on the d6. A 5, so it is not surprised. Well, it is a bit of a gamble. Hopefully, maybe with the power dice, I am willing to take the risk. So let's roll initiatives. The party, they are going to fight the owlbear. As always, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's follow this thing. So let's see. Declare spells and melee movement, because the owlbear is actually not a crystal creature, and that means that I may want to cast spells on it. Unfortunately, the owlbear is too strong for the sleep spell, and also I was thinking that Calliope might entangle it, either with the spell or her new magical shield. However, that only works when there is enough vegetation to cause the entanglement, and they are inside this crystal pyramid, so there is unfortunately no growth with which to do that. So that was a little bit unfortunate. Okay, so then we are not declaring spells. And there is no melee movement because no one is in melee. And now I am rolling the initiatives. And, oh no, the owlbear goes first. Randomizing a target 7, that would be poor Flark. And the owlbear has 3 attacks, and I guess it would be it's most likely that it would direct all 3 attacks at one and the same target. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the coin if it bites someone else. So let's see, does it bite someone else? That means either Flark takes all 3, or he takes 2 claws and someone else takes the bite. Right. Okay, yes. Okay, so 3 attacks against Flark. Flark has an AC of 4, and the owlbear has a FACO of 15, so 11 or higher is a hit. And let's see. 2 hits. Luckily for Flark, he is the character with the most hit points. He has 23 hit points because he has a constitution of 18. But let's see. First strike, 7, and second one, 6. Okay, I am going to use a power die on the 7 and decrease that by 6. Very lucky. So that means he takes 7 points of damage total, meaning he has now taken 9 points of damage. All right, then it is the party's turn. So a movement. Let's see, who wants to get into melee with this beast? Well, Grek'on and Pantera, they know no fear. They're going to run into melee. Daviez, I was going to say he's too dumb to do anything else, but it's not true. He actually has an intelligence of 11. And Artaigon, no. Flark has no choice. Calliope is going to stay back. Lekkis III, he has 3. He has 8 hit points. He can, well, I mean, he can be one-shotted, but I guess no guts, no glory. So he is going to go into melee. And then, of course, Urso is also going to go into melee. And Tharos is going to stay where he is. And that was the movement for the party. Let's see. Right, he has taken 3 points of damage. So I need to keep those there. Okay, and then missiles. And Curtis is not going to risk it with a sword. This time he's going to throw a dagger. And a 3 is unfortunately going to miss. And then, well, I'm going to do this in order to speed things up. It has an AC of 5. And that means everyone misses except Artaigon. And he lands 4 points of damage, bringing it down to 9. Okay, so let's see if the rest of the party, if they can finish this. Not very good rolls, but Daviez and Urso, they both hit. Let's see if they can get up to 9 points of damage. 2d4, 1d8 plus 1. And that came to 11. So indeed, they managed to end the fight with the owlbear. All right. So then they need to catch their breath after the fight. And that means that they need to check for wandering monster again. On a 1. No, a 6. Lucky. To be honest, I am not 100% sure if there was treasure in this room or not. No, there wasn't. That was the sort of the weird thing, because there was a trap that would have been connected to treasure, but there was no treasure. I'm pretty sure that was how it was. Otherwise, I'm going to add the treasure when I'm editing. Okay, so the party, they are going to check the door to the north, and they're going to find that it has no traps and it's not locked. And then when they open that door, they're going to find a very long corridor going all the way north, so far that it connects to the room that they visited last time they were here. And apart from that, the only thing in this corridor is one door leading to the east. However, and yes, what I rolled was that this was an empty corridor. But the party, they don't know, so they are going to move slowly and carefully, and so they're going to spend one turn investigating the corridor just to make sure, and then they are going to look at the door. So the party, they are going to check the door to the east, and on a 1 it is problematic, a 5, so a no. So it's not locked and it's not trapped, and that means they are going to open it. Okay, so the party, they enter the room to the east from that long corridor, and in here they find a room that is 3 by 2, and there are 3 doors leading further, 1 to the north and 2 to the east, and there is some treasure in here that is guarded sort of by a trap, but this time Tharos manages to disarm that trap, and he finds that it was the same type that he was hit by the last time the party was here, the spray that attracts monsters. So the party, they are going to gather up the treasure, and I'm going to add that later, so I don't have to take the time with it right now. And because of limitations with the map, I'm actually going to break my rule that all corridors lead to rooms and all rooms lead to corridors, because I'm not going to be able to squeeze in a very meaningful corridor in either of the doors that lead to the east. So there I'm going to put small rooms, and then to the north I am going to randomize a corridor. And so let's see, the party, they are going to try the southern door leading to the east. Okay, so actually before dealing with the first room after the corridor, the party needed to rest for 10 minutes, and that means that they also ran out, their torches ran out, and I must check for a random monster. Random monster check. 2, no, it's only on a 1. Yes, only on a 1. Then Tharos spent 10 minutes dealing with the trap and finding the treasure, and that means when they open... No, not yet, because... Well, right, so let's see if there was any trouble with this door. No, a 3, no problems. All right, so... This is not going to be good for the party, because when they open the door, the southern door to the east, they are faced with 13 mutoids. How you could squeeze 13 mutoids into that little room, I'm not really sure, but let's read about those. Humanoids with mismatched body parts of many different creatures, reptiles, crustaceans, birds, mammals, etc. Each individual has a unique appearance. Shunned by other species, they live in hiding within large settlements or band together and dwell in ruins. Now, these would be crystal, but the thing is, with so many of them, the party, with how things have been going, the party is going to not want to take this fight. So I'm going to see, because they are... Okay, they surprise the party on a 1 to a 3, but they are still surprised themselves normally, the way that I understand it. So a small prayer to the dice gods is in order at this point, because if the party manage to surprise these crystal mutoids, then they are simply going to shut the door and they're going to run away bravely and boldly. They're going to run for the hills. So let's see. And that's perfect, because this means the party, they are not surprised, while the mutoids, they are surprised. So that means that the party, they're going to shut the door and they're going to run away. Right, well, I am going to have to bring this session to an end either way. So they are going to run bravely and boldly all the way to their ship. Let's see, well... They are going to run at a higher pace out, but I am going to make this final Wandering Monster roll, and we're going to see if they are stopped on their way out. And if they are, of course, then maybe the mutoids give chase, and that could turn into a really bad and very deadly situation. So let's see. Final Wandering Monster check before they get out of the Crystal Pyramid on a 1. 6, lucky. Okay, good. And it's going to cost them 1 ration, I suppose, to get back to the boat. Well, perhaps not really, but let's say that it does. And then in order to not be too easy on the players, I'm going to give them one encounter check when they travel from the dungeon to their ship, the Sea Drake, and I'm going to say that is on a 1 or a 2. Random encounter, 1 or 2. A 2, oh no. Okay, so the same thing as at the beginning of the session. Now, where did I put my coin? Here's my coin. Am I going to use the Hex Dek card? And if no, then this one. So let's see. No, so another one of these. Well, actually 3 of those then. And like before, I might end up modifying this somewhat in order to fit the location and the theme of the Crystal Island. But let's see. On your journey, you find a stone well. It is in fine shape and the water within is fresh and cool. Fill your canteen here if you're smart. There you meet a scarecrow that is trying to undo the ropes that secure it to a wooden post. There may have been crops here once, but if so, they are long dead. The scarecrow insists that they've met you before. You haven't, but if you agree, then they demand you pay back the 500 gold you borrowed from them. If you shrug them off, they attack. Well, I feel like, because we did have the jack-o'-lantern man, and there was the talking pumpkin, and there were the living scarecrows. So that's actually kind of perfect and funny, because I know I did say that the enchantment on the living scarecrows, that it ended and that they all fell apart, because, well, quite frankly, that was because I didn't want the party to have a small army constantly following them around and tanking things for them. But so what I'm going to say is that this one of the living scarecrows actually did survive, and somehow it has maybe it was a stowaway on the ship, or somehow or other it has now managed to catch up with the party, and even though Gretchen never told the party that they were supposed to pay these scarecrows, this scarecrow is going to demand 500 gold for services rendered. And so, well, the party, they're not going to pay this living scarecrow 500 gold pieces, so I guess they're going to fight it. And, well, it was already decided that they were very weak, so they are going to destroy that poor scarecrow. And, well, some of them might have a bit of a guilty conscience because they probably wanted to do right by the scarecrows and pay them, but 500 gold, well, that's just too much. So that was the final encounter, and then the party, they are back on the Sea Drake, And well, let's see then. They started on the 17th of January, and then it would have taken 1 day sort of to reach the dungeon, and then they spent some time during the same day exploring, and then going back to the ship. That's 1 more day. So on the 19th, they are back on the Sea Drake. So with that, I thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.